Have you ever stood at your front door, peering out at the world beyond, and felt a pang because the walk you used to love, the one that took you past the blooming roses or the neighbor's yapping dog, now feels like a mountain too high to climb? Maybe you're in your 60s, 70s, or even pushing 80, and you've noticed your steps slowing, your legs hesitating where they once strode bold. If that's you, if you're walking less and wondering why, let me pull you in close. You're not alone in this quiet shift. I've felt it too. At 66, I catch myself lingering at the bottom of my stairs, a flicker of doubt where certainty used to live. But let's talk about George, 78, a man who'd trek his neighborhood every dawn, cap tipped, a hello for every face. These days, though, he'd falter at the curb, grip the railing tighter, his walks shrinking smaller and smaller. It scared him, that slow fade. He'd always been the guy who moved, who lived free. Just getting old, he'd mutter, resigned, thinking his legs were done telling his story. But here's the whisper of hope I want you to hear. That's not the end of the tale. You don't have to sit back and watch your freedom slip away, not at 60, not at 70, not at 80. Today, I'm laying out 6 simple, powerful things, nothing grand or out of reach, that can wake your legs up, bring back that spring, and keep you moving through the life you love. These aren't wild fixes or gym memberships you'll never use. They're steps you can take right now, in your own space, with what you've got. Stay with me to the end, because the last 2 are quiet miracles, surprises that'll shift how you see what's possible. This isn't about clinging to yesterday. It's about claiming today, strong and steady, ready to step into it with me. It sneaks up so soft you barely notice at first, doesn't it? One day, you're swinging out of bed like always. The next, there's a groan in your knees, a heaviness that wasn't there before. George saw it too. His morning jaunt went from a mile to a block, then just to the mailbox, his legs dragging like they'd forgotten the rhythm. I've caught it in my own mirror. Those quick hops to grab the phone now come with a pause, a little negotiation with my joints. Must be age, we tell ourselves, shrugging it off, letting it settle like dust on an old shelf. But let's peel that back, because it's not just the years piling up, it's what we're doing or not doing with them. I started digging after George's sighs grew heavier. Why do our legs give first? Online, folks in their 70s and 80s spill the same story. Used to walk everywhere. Now I'm stuck, one wrote, frustration bleeding through. Science has a name for it. Sarcopenia, that slow creep where your muscles thin out, starting in your 40s, picking up speed later. Your legs, those big engines that haul you through life, take the hit hardest because they're always on duty, lifting, stepping, steadying. Leave them idle, and they rust, like a bike left in the rain, chain stiff, wheels flat. I've seen it in my own calves. Days I skip moving. They tighten, protest louder the next time I try. George thought it was over. His walks, his freedom, but he didn't know the other half. Your body's waiting to fight back. Move it, even a little, and it responds. Muscles perk up, joints loosen. He learned that, slow and steady, and I'm learning it too. You're not too old to turn it around. Your legs are still listening, ready for the call. Let's give them 6 ways to answer. Because this isn't just about walking, it's about living. George's story, and my own stumbles, showed me you don't need a big overhaul, just a spark. These 6 things aren't about rewinding time, they're about making your now stronger, freer, yours again. Let's walk through them, step by step. 1. Start small. Move where you stand. George's legs didn't quit all at once. It was a slow fade, his walks shrinking until he barely left his porch. "Can't do it anymore," he'd say. Eyes on the floor, that old cap gathering dust. I saw him sinking into that chair, and it hit me. He didn't need to conquer a mile, he just needed to start. Your body thrives on motion, even the tiniest nudge. I sat him down one afternoon. "Try this," I said. "Stand up, march in place, 30 seconds, sit back." He chuckled, skeptical. "That's nothing." But he humored me. 5 minutes a day, split into bursts. By week's end, he looked up. "Legs don't feel so dead." A flicker, a start. I've leaned into it myself. Mornings when my hips grumble, I shuffle by the counter while coffee brews, a little dance with the day. My cousin's mom, Ruth, 74, was worse. After a hip twinge, she'd stopped walking altogether, convinced her legs were through. I visited, saw her hunched, and said, "Let's pace the kitchen, just a bit." She rolled her eyes, but tried, humming Elvis under her breath. Weeks later, over tea, she grinned. Legs woke up like they'd been asleep. No marathons, no pressure, just move where you stand. Circle your chair. Sway while you wash dishes. Small sparks light the way. I think about Ruth's kitchen shuffle. She'd tell me how she'd count steps, 10, 20, 30, laughing when she tripped over the cat. "Didn't think I had it in me," she said, pouring me a cup, her hands steadier than I'd seen in years. "It's not about distance, it's about telling your legs, we're still here." George started tapping his feet to the radio after that, building on those first marches. I've added a lap around my living room, 5 minutes, and I'm lighter. You can too, wherever you are, right now. 2. Sip more. Water's your quiet power. George never thought twice about water. Coffee in the morning, a soda at lunch, maybe a glass with supper. "Keeps me going," he'd say, but one hot afternoon, he shuffled slower than ever, legs like they'd turned to stone. "Tired," he grumbled, slumping in his chair. I'd read something. Dehydration hits your muscles hard, especially as you age, and handed him a glass. "Drink this, see what happens." He sipped, shrugged, but by dusk he perked up. "Legs aren't fighting me," he said, brow raised. I felt it too. Days I skimp on water, my calves knot, steps drag like I'm wading through mud. My friend's dad, Tom, 81, learned it rough, collapsed on his deck one summer, legs cramping, parched. Thought it was heat, he told me later, sipping from a bottle I'd brought. But water pulled me back. It's simple. Muscles need hydration to flex, to lift you. I pushed George, keep a jug close, sip all day. He does now, 8 glasses slow and steady, and I've got one by my chair too. My sister's neighbor, Lila, 77, swore she was fine till a dry spell left her hobbling. "Water's my savior," she laughed, refilling her pitcher. It's not glamorous, it's power in every drop. I remember Tom's scare. Sweat-soaked, he'd lain there, thinking his legs were done. "Didn't know a glass could fix me," he said, shaking his head. George started carrying a bottle on his porch sits. Small sips, big shifts. I've taken to starting my day with one, cool and clear. Legs thank me by noon. You don't need much, just more than yesterday. 3. Stretch it out. Unlock the stiffness. Stiffness was George's shadow. Mornings, he'd creak out of bed, knees locked, like his legs were stuck in cement. "Too old to bend," he'd mutter, hobbling to his coffee. But stiffness isn't forever. It's rust you can shake off. I showed him. Sit, stretch one leg out, reach slow. Hold it. He grunted, skeptical, but tried. 5 minutes a day. "Legs give a little," he said after a week, standing straighter, surprise in his eyes. I stretch now. Mornings when my calves tighten, I lean into the wall, feel them ease. My aunt, Peg, 76, was stiffer, barely walked after hours in her rocker. I visited, saw her wince and said, "Leg lifts on the couch, just try." She did. "Like oil in the joints," she laughed, pacing her hall next time I stopped by. My old pal Ed, 70, swore he'd never stretch. For kids, he'd scoff, till his knees buckled. I coaxed him. 5 minutes, standing, reach down. He's smoother now. Should have listened sooner, he grinned. It's not gymnastics, just waking what's asleep. George does it by the TV now. I stretch while the news drones. Your legs will loosen too. Peg told me once, over pie, how she'd stretch watching her soaps, leg up, then down, giggling when she overreached. Thought I'd snap, she said, but I didn't. George added a calf pull to his routine, leans on his sink, steady. I've taken to it before bed, 5 minutes and sleeps deeper. It's yours to try, anywhere, anytime. 4. Sleep deep. Rebuild while you rest. George's nights were jagged, up late, tossing, awake before dawn, wiped out. Legs hurt worse when I'm beat, he'd say, rubbing them. He didn't see it. Sleep's not just closing your eyes. It's where your legs recharge, muscles knitting back together. I nudged him. Bed at 10. Lights off, no noise. He balked. Can't sleep like that. But tried. A week in, he lit up. Legs feel alive, he said, pouring coffee with steady hands. I've fought sleep myself, late nights scrolling, legs heavy by lunch. My neighbor, Ellen, 72, was a mess, up all hours, shuffling slow. Fixed it, she told me, grinning past my gate. Dark room, no phone, 7 hours. Legs thank me, she said. My brother's pal, Jim, 68, laughed it off, till fatigue floored him. Sleep's gold, he admitted, post-nap, striding again. George dims lights now, skips late news. I've cut my screen glow too. It's your legs' quiet healer. Give them the night, every night. Ellen's trick stuck with me. She'd sip tea, dim everything. Like a cocoon, she said. George started reading paperbacks. No TV. Out like a light, he chuckled. I've swapped doom scrolling for a book. Legs lift easier come dawn. It's not rules. It's rest you deserve. 5. Stand more. Escape the sitting cage. George's recliner was his kingdom. Hours lost in it. Legs still. TV flickering. Best spot, he'd say. But standing? A groan, a wince. Legs betrayed him. Sitting's a trap. Steals your flow, weakens what's strong. I told him, stand every hour. Just a bit. Shaky start, but he stuck. Weeks later. Legs hold me now, he said, pacing his porch. I've caught myself. Days glued to my seat. Legs stiff as boards. My pal's mom, Dot, 79, lived it. TV marathons, barely budged. I popped by. Stand during ads, I urged. Saved me, she beamed, shuffling to her sink. My old boss, Sue, 73, sat through retirement, till I said, walk the hall. She's brisker now. Legs got guts again, she laughed. George stands brushing his teeth. I pace on calls. It's not effort, it's breaking free. Dot's tail lingers. She'd sway to oldies, standing. Like a kid, she said. George took to it. Up every hour. Keeps me loose. He nodded. I've added it. Stand while coffee drips. Legs stay ready. You can too. Any moment, anywhere. 6. Balance up. Trust your feet again. George's real dread wasn't slowness. It was falling. One tumble, and I'm toast, he'd whisper, clutching rails. Balance slips with age. Steps waver. Fear grows. But you can pull it back. I showed him. One leg up. Hold the counter. 10 seconds. He wobbled, grinned, kept going. Steadier now, he said, weeks on, crossing his yard, sure. I do it. Brushing teeth, 1 foot lifted, less sway now. My uncle, Ray, 83, froze post-fall. Thought he'd never walk free. I got him. Balance, 5 seconds, chair nearby. Kid again, he chuckled, yard-bound. My friend's gran, Lila, 71, teetered, till Tai Chi tapes came. Solid as stone, she boasted, striding past. George sways to tunes now. I lean into yoga breaths. It's not just legs, it's faith in them, yours to build. Ray's recovery hit me. He'd shuffle, scared, then balance. Legs trust me now, he said, eyes bright. George added heel lifts. No rails some days, he bragged. I've taken to it, standing tall, steady, your turn's waiting. George went from porch to park. Small moves, big leaps. Ruth, 74, was trapped indoors, hip ache, hope dim, till pacing, sipping, stretching brought her garden back. Thought I'd lost it, she said, pruning, alive. Tom, 81, hit dirt, cramped, dry water, standing revived him. Second wind, he grinned, tossing me a nod. Ellen, 72, shuffled, sleepless. Rest, balance turned it. Walk with purpose, she laughed, gait swinging. My pal's dad, Ed, 70, creaked. Stretch, sleep. Moving's mine again, he said. Real steps, real lives. Yours too. Ruth's roses bloom now. She'd tell me, legs sing when I water 'em. Tom's porch sits are lively. Water's my buddy, he winked. Ellen strides past daily. Sleep's my trick, she calls. Ed's pie visits, stretch tails. Keeps me coming, he grins. George waves from his walk. All six? He nods. Small wins stack high. George reclaimed his streets. Ruth her garden, Tom his porch, Ellen her stride, Ed his visits, me. I'm stepping sure, no doubts. You're not locked at 60, 70, 80. Your legs aren't done. Move a minute, sip steady, stretch soft, sleep deep, stand tall, balance true. 6 keys, yours to turn. This isn't yesterday's echo. It's tomorrow's song, yours to sing. What's your spark? A shuffle now? A stretch tonight? You've got the map. Walk it. Hit like if this stirred you, subscribe. Let's keep moving together. Tell me below, what's your first try? I'm cheering, your legs are ready, and you are too.